Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Pectora, Twilight Knights, out April 5th as a self-release. The album has 9 tracks, 50 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are a Danish heavy metal band. As far as the design goes, the album is simple, not that it had to be complicated. You just want the songs to provide as good of an experience as possible. You don't want necessarily songs that have similarities to come close together so that it becomes a little bit redundant. You want the album to have the right twists and the right turns, and this record definitely offers that, almost constantly changing directions from track to track, but still staying on path and still staying with that vision in mind of where this album needs to take the listener to. So it's a very well crafted record that definitely gets the most out of the songs in it. Now, as far as the sound is concerned, this is a old school heavy metal sounding album, but it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel that it was pushed in that direction. It rather just feels like it is the DNA of the band. I don't see the production on this album trying to imitate or copy late 80s, early 90s heavy metal sound. It's just more the DNA of the band coming alive, and then the songs really translating into tracks that fit that time period but don't necessarily sound exactly like songs from that time period. It's an album that has a lot of different influences. When you listen to this record, you can see influences by Iron Maiden, you can see influences by Queensryche. It's just a record that brings elements of that very specific time period but allows them to be a little bit more modern but still connected with an old school approach with a throwback vibe behind it. An album that has 2 main cornerstones, the guitars and the vocals, as you would expect from a classic heavy metal sounding record. Now, when it comes to the guitars on this album are amazing. There's so much in the forefront. You get the brunt of them on every single track. They are heavy at times, melodic, driven, a little bit more methodic, a little bit more chuggy, sometimes pushing almost some progressive elements, creating epic sounds that allow the tracks to be larger than life. I mean, the guitars have a lot of energy built in them, and then from song to song it comes down to how much of that energy are you going to get. So it's an album that has great quality, great texture, great execution across all the different pieces, all across the different elements, across every single song. The solo sections on this record are phenomenal. They always add quality to the tracks. They always add energy to the songs. They always come in and put an exclamation mark on the track and on the experience that the track is offering. When you listen to this record, you see what heavy metal is all about. Great guitar playing, allowing that to be the starting point of the experience, and then branching off into other parts, not only of the sound but of the vocal performance. Staying still within the sound, I have to mention that the drums on this record, while not being super powerful or impactful, they compact the sound pretty well and they add substance to it. But you could see that they are a little bit further back from where the guitars are, because the guitars just have that more explosive nature, and just because of it, they're always going to detach themselves almost from everything else. Now, when the guitars become a little bit more heavy, a little bit more chuggy, then they approximate themselves to the drum sound and even to the bass sound, so it feels a little bit more cohesive and the sound feels a little bit more balanced. But outside of that, you always feel like the guitars are stretching these songs musically, giving them a large footprint, and in some cases really bringing a sense of epicness to the overall experience of the track. When it comes to the bass, I think the bass could have been a little bit more subtle, and I don't mean subtle in terms of the impact in the songs, because I like tracks that have a nice bass sound to them, that have a bass impact, but the sound itself of the bass, at times it really jolted certain key points of the track, and it jumped out, and when it jumps out within a song, it's really hard for your ears to go somewhere else. They almost become glued to that one single element, and they're always looking for it. And I don't think that's necessarily something that you want within a track. You want your ears to be absorbing all the different pieces that are coming in, and not just being focused on one single element. Had the bass been a little bit more subtle in its sound, had the sound been a little bit softer, maybe that's a better way to describe it, a little bit softer, I think the experience would have been better all around. You wouldn't have had that element jumping out, and the overall sound would have been even more epic than what it currently is. Would have also helped glue a little bit better the distance between the guitars and the drums in certain songs. Vocally, where did they find this vocalist? What an incredible range, what an incredible performance. I haven't heard vocals like this in a very long time, on a record with this sound, on a record with this experience. It was a clinic in terms of showcasing the range, the ability, the power, the delivery. There's not one single song where you wish the vocals would have been slightly different. The vocals always bring energy, they always have a way of emphasizing momentums within the songs, and then even at times when you feel like the vocals are staying a little bit connected and a little bit too balanced throughout tracks that are maybe a little bit more methodic, they added some layers, they added some backing vocals in order to beef up the vocal sound, the vocal presence, the vocal lines, and allow those moments within the songs to be a little bit more brighter, to be a little bit more bigger, and that creates ebbs and flows. Even though they're not existing necessarily musically, you're still getting them vocally. Incredible performance all around. The range is insane. I was blown away by this vocalist, blown away by how good he is. If you're a fan of heavy metal, if you're a fan of power metal, you gotta check out this band. The guitars and vocals alone are more than enough of a calling card. And if you're a fan of Iron Maiden, specifically of Queensryche, early Queensryche, you gotta check out this band. You really have to check out this band. They have incredible talent. They have the right pieces in the right place, just some fine-tuning here and there, but overall a very enjoyable record to listen to. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Cosmic, Menace. Heavy guitar. I picked 3 songs that offer 3 different characteristics. This one is the heaviest of the 3. You can hear it in the sound, you can hear it in the guitars, you can hear it in the drums. It's definitely a track that packs weight, that packs volume, that packs substance. It's a track that feels at times a little bit more balanced musically because of that heaviness, and then where you see the ebbs and flows happening comes from the vocal delivery. The vocal delivery is what infusing energy and creating that movement within the track, allowing the sound beneath it to be more consistent. Incredible solo section, super explosive, and then the vocals are just incredible all around. A track that really showcases everything that can do in one single song. Next you have Where Everything Begins. Now this is not a heavy track, but it is an epic track. This is almost cinematic in certain key moments of the song, not consistently from beginning to end, but in key moments of the song. This is a massive track with massive sound, almost bringing an arena rock feel to the forefront. The guitars are big, the drums are big, there's great layering to it. Then you have some layers into the vocals, which adds to the overall epicness of the track. In the last third, there's a moment where their song completely explodes. It gets turned all the way to 11. You see this faster tempo coming in, and there's this incredible speed and energy that just almost comes out of nowhere and gets injected into the track. Then the song returns back to its original format, closes off with a guitar solo. There's so many old school elements, but the track, it also has this massive size to it, and it's a representation of how they make an epic song without using orchestrations, without using keys. This band is very old school, it's very organic in its sound, and it has that organic experience of, if you listen to this record and you watch them live, you're probably going to get the exact same experience. What you see is exactly what you get. This song showcases that they can make epic tracks without having extra elements in it in order to create that epicness. Last but definitely not least, A Race Through the Dark. Of the 3, this is the darkest song, and it's the most methodic song. It's the slowest moving track. I wouldn't go, out of the 3, I wouldn't go as far as to call it a ballad, but it's definitely a dark tone to it, the way it feels, the way it resonates, the way it emphasizes certain key elements in the sound. You see that darkness, but then even vocally, it's not a track that has necessarily the same impact as the previous 2. Is a track that feels more contained, and it's more about the atmosphere that creates that darkness that it creates than anything else. Sound and vocals are there just to really showcase it, emphasize it, present it to the listener, and then it's up to you to really embrace that darkness and get all the way into it. This is it, Pectora with Twilight Knights. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on their singles. Hit me up in the comment section, and I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.